Hi everybody, so we're back with the Viking painting tutorial. So where we left off last time, we had done basically everything that was going to need a wash of the Reichland flesh shade. So that was the hair, the skin, and any bronze work as well. So now we kind of have some choices where we want to go next. And again, this kind of painting method, I'd base it off of how much time I have and basing it around your washes. So where can you get to a point where you can put on a wash and then leave it? So with the skin, I always like to do an extra highlight on the skin. I think it pretty much always pays off, especially on the face. So the face will get an extra highlight at the end. We're not totally done with the skin yet, but right now we have some choices. So I'm going to kind of talk you through the primary colors that this batch is going to be in. Our first main color here is Fenrisian Gray. So I quite like this color with the Vikings. I really want blues and grays to be the kind of standout color. Kind of that uniting color in the army. That's something to always think about when you're doing an army, is what is going to tie the army together. And that can be a primary color that you see over and over again in different forms. Maybe one guy's hat is this color, another guy's shirt is this color, but the color is spread around so that it kind of visually ties things together. Or maybe it's like bronze armor. If everyone has bronze armor, that can tie things together. Or basing. I've seen some armies that have this really good basing that really kind of pulls everything together. And that's kind of important, I think, from kind of the artistic aspect of this hobby. You're painting these armies to look good together. You need the colors to match. So this is kind of one of my real uniting colors for this army, Fenrisian Gray. The other one here is Foundry Matter Red 60A. This is kind of like a browny red color. I quite like it because I like having those red tones in there, but it doesn't really pop like the regular red, and it looks kind of more earthy. So I quite like this one. And then I've also been using a lot of this Militarum green, and this is kind of more of a secondary color, but this is a good one for pants or random shirts and stuff. Stuff you don't really want to spend the time painting, but the Militarum green actually looks pretty good, I think, for the contrast. So those are kind of our main primary colors here. So I think today, with the time I have, I want to put on my brown washes. So we're going to be doing the reds first, I think. So yeah, we'll get started on these reds. So the main reason I kind of want to get the brown washes on is because I want to do this kind of linen-y armor that some of these guys have on. So what I'm thinking here is we'll put on the red, and then just with the white background, the white primer on these, we should be able to get a pretty good effect just from having the brown wash on there. And in this little crack, here, I'm actually just going to take the miniature away from the camera to paint in there because I can't quite get it from here. Alright, and the nice thing about using washes is you can really let the wash do the work. If there are gaps in the miniature, you can just use it as kind of natural shading, at least from my point of view. And again, painting with the camera is a little tricky. This is something I'm kind of still learning how to paint these tutorials. Because of course the camera kind of goes right where you want to be. And you know, right now what I'm kind of doing is I'm mainly focusing on just trying to get a nice solid base coat down. With white, sometimes you can, you know, the white does stand through with certain colors. You know, you want to kind of avoid that. You want to make sure you got a really nice solid base coat down. So we got our red on our first model. I'm gonna turn the camera off and put the red on the next kind of batch of guys, and we'll kind of come back to it. So see you in 1 sec. So we've got our red on all the miniatures that are going to need red on them, but we kind of got to wait for these to dry a little bit. So now is a good time to kind of fill in some of those secondary colors while we wait for the main red to dry. So I think the next color we're going to use is Skeleton Horde here. And this one is going to be mainly used for the spear shafts. So we'll go to this step, and also I think, so we're gonna, the spear shafts, the weapon shafts, we're also gonna do this guy. I like to have some variety with this armor, so this guy is actually gonna get a spear shaft, you know, padded armor here, or the Skeleton Horde colored padded armor here. So I like this color for the spear handles, or the weapon wood on weapons, because it's kind of like, you know, it's this light wood color. The main wood that they would have been using for weapons like this is ash, which actually is a very like pale colored wood, and of course that would darken over time, you know, and they would probably be rubbing oil and stuff into the wood. But I think it looks really good for like that ash color. And I think this guy actually also, he might have a little pendant on him, a Thor's hammer or something, necklace. When you're kind of painting these big armies, that's the kind of thing I would not really worry about so much, because when they're kind of ranked up, you know what, people aren't really gonna see that. You know, it'll just, you can barely kind of see it on the camera. It'll just kind of blend in to the it'll blend into the tunic or whatever, the armor. So one thing, you know, and this is kind of pretty minor for me too, you can see there is kind of a slight difference in color between the back and the front, and that's because you know, when I was priming this, it looks like the front got a little better coverage of primer than the back did. So the back's like a little more gray than white, but honestly that's okay. So yeah, we got all the skeleton bone stuff done here, and I kind of like right there with this contrast paint, you gotta kind of look for the pooling a little bit and make sure it's not pooling. So yeah, the next step is I'm gonna quickly go through and do all the spear shaft, skeleton horde, while we kind of wait for that red paint to dry. So I actually want to give that red paint a little more time to dry. So we're going to add another contrast paint in here, Gorgonta fur, and that is going to be for the fur around this guy's hat. And mainly with the stuff I'm doing right now, I want to do stuff that isn't touching the red, so it doesn't get mixed in with the wash when we apply the wash here. So we're going to do some Gorgonta fur right around the top of the hat here. And contrast paints, I think, are perfect for things like this: fur, hair, anything that has a lot of detail like this. And I think, you know, contrast paints, they really work well for plastics. I think they, you know, because of the finer details, I think they can look kind of bad on metals. So yeah, we just quickly put our fur on there. And I think actually our red looks just about ready to put the wash on here. So we'll go to the wash. So for reds, I usually use Agrax Earthshade as my wash. So that's what we're gonna do, our Agrax Earthshade wash. And then, you know, I got some other things I gotta do. So that leaves me at a good stopping point, a good place to kind of finish up, put the wash on, and then move on. And that's kind of what this system is designed around too. Designed around, you know, getting you to a stage quickly where you can apply wash and then leave. You know, what I also do is, and what we'll see kind of later is with these reds, I'm going to use some different highlights to kind of take the reds in different directions. So some are going to be, you know, stay at that kind of subdued red. Others we might kind of build up the color a little bit more, get a brighter color. But time for the wash to kind of finish things up, and then I gotta go. So for this guy, we're actually gonna put the wash straight over the white. And this will just, you know, this is mainly so we get a variety of some different colors of this armor. So they don't all look quite the same, because there are going to be a lot of guys wearing this, you know, armor in this army. And really, I should be using a bigger brush for this, but this is just kind of what I have to hand right now, and we're just kind of going to go with it. And as you can probably see, there was a little, you know, I got some flesh color or something on this when I was painting. I was being messy. That's not really a big deal. It's just really going to blend in with the wash. And look, these guys are, you know, Vikings. You know, look, they might get some stains on their stuff, but you know, you can barely even tell with the wash over. But I'm not really super concerned about this guy having a couple stains. Like, you're not even gonna see that when it's in the armor. So it's not, you know, I don't bother with it. All right, so we got the wash on this guy. So yeah, I'll put the wash on the rest of them, and then we'll kind of see you for the next step. So actually I've got a little bit more time, so I'm just gonna start going on to the metal, and we're gonna use lead belcher for that. And, you know, it's kind of that nice dark gunmetal kind of steel color. So, and that kind of goes on pretty well over white. So that's what our kind of next step here is. We're just going to quickly add the steel color. So I'll pick a different guy, one who has a helmet. So, and yeah, this is another kind of thing. I should probably use a different brush for this, because of, you know, metal paint is kind of hard on brushes, but we're just gonna kind of go with this for right now. And yeah, you gotta be, so this is one thing, you know, sometimes it's better to put on the metal first, because you don't want to, you know, if you're painting up from black, I'd say you definitely want to put the metal on first, because you're going to be dry brushing it on. And in that case, you know, you want to be able to dry brush without risking, you know, stuff you've already painted, basically. Alright, so we got the metal on the helmet and the axe done. Now it's time for the shield, and in the case of the shield, I kind of just slop it on a little bit. Because, you know, we're going to have to kind of paint the shield again anyways. This part of the rim, you got to be careful so you don't get the guy, but if it's stuff we haven't painted yet, I'm not really worried about getting metal on it because we're going to have to paint it anyways. And with these shields, I'm not going to end up doing the shields until the very end of this project, basically. As soon as I get all of the, not until I get all the infantry painted. I think I've got about 20 left to do. But yeah, there we got the steel on the first guy. And I'm going to quickly do the steel, and that's kind of where we're going to leave it for today, and we'll pick it back up. Hopefully tomorrow's Friday. Hopefully tomorrow, and we'll actually get these guys pretty much finished off tomorrow, I think, with about another little bit of time here. So here we go with the steel.